Hi, good morning everyone. Till now we have discussed 70 questions successfully. Now I'll be discussing question number 71 to question number 80. So this is question number 71 to 80. So what does the question number 71 says? What are Camel's norms in banking? So if you have a question like this, or whenever you are reading Camel's norms, don't write Camels like this. Camel should be written like this. Actually, Camel's norms are the criteria for the performance of a bank given by the recommendations of S. Padmanabhan Committee. So, the man behind Camel's norms is S. Padmanabhan. Remember his name, Padmanabhan. Now, C stands for what is the capital adequacy of the bank? A stands for asset quality. M stands for management. Now, it can be earnings or equity. So, both will go. So, I am writing earnings. This is liquidity. And last one is systems and control. So, based on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parameters, ranking will be given to banks. For example, what is the capital adequacy status of the bank? What is the asset quality of the bank? How the bank is managing? What are the earnings of the bank? If the assets are there in the bank, what is their liquidity status? Systems and control, how they are doing. So total 6 parameters are there which will give you the performance of the bank. For each parameter, the score will be given from 0 to 100. And based on the score acquired on all these 6 parameters, ranking will be given to the banks from A, B, C, D, E. Whenever the bank is at A, it indicates that it is in near collapse. So the bank is going to be collapse. So at that particular point of time, merging of banks takes place. Not consolidation of banks, it is merging of banks. Consolidation of bank means a good bank plus good bank into a very big bank. That is, for example, SBI and its associates were consolidated. They are not merged. So, appropriate word is consolidation. For example, recently some banks, some nationalized banks were merged and made into very little group. Now that is merging. So bad plus good is merging, good plus good is consolidation. So based on the score acquired through these 6 parameters, the ranking will be given to the banks, and this kind of procedure or these parameters are the efforts of S. Padmanabhan Committee. So S. Padmanabhan Committee is behind these Camel's norms actually, which will give you the performance of the bank actually. Here itself indicates that capital adequacy, asset quality, management, earnings, liquidity, systems and control, all these parameters will give you the performance of the bank. Bank A, Bank B, rank A, rank B, rank C, rank D, rank E. Rank A indicates the bank is working very beautifully, no problem with the bank. Bank E, it has to be merged with other banks. So this is the significance of these rankings. And for each parameters, score will be from 0 to 100. So in total we have 6 parameters in Camels. CAMELS. So this is all about Camel's norms. And after Camels, what we have? What is the difference between bank rate and bank base rate? Bank rate means the rate of interest charged by RBI from the banks. And bank base rate means the rate of interest at which the banks are going to lend to their customers. It is the minimum rate. Above that, they can, but below that they are not allowed. For example, if the banks are giving 4% base rate. Bank base rate is 4%. So the banks are not allowed to give less than this. They can give more than that. More than this percentage they can, but less than this is not allowed. That is bank base rate. So there is a difference between bank rate and bank base rate. Bank rate is the rate of interest charged by the RBI from the banks. And bank base rate is at which the banks are supposed to lend to their customers, and below that base rate they are not supposed to lend to the customers. That is the difference between bank rate and bank base rate. And what is the 73rd question? What is teaser rate in banking? Now this is a beautiful one, because so much money is going to be pumped by the government of India nowadays. You can find this teaser rate by the banks. For example, you can see that 20 lakh crores is being pumped, 84,000 crores is being pumped, 1.5 lakh crores is being pumped by the government of India into the markets. It indicates that huge money flow is there. Whenever huge money flow is there, then the money flows in banking system only. If the more money is flowing in the banking system, then there is a possibility of more home loans, more vehicle loans, more bike loans, more car loans. So to attract the customers, the banks are going to introduce this concept called teaser rate, which is not fixed one, which changes continuously depending on the position of the markets. Now at present, during the lockdown, when this pumping takes place, you can see more encouragement from the banks to take loans. That thing will be there. So at that point of time, you can see the teaser rate concept. Generally the teaser rate concept comes whenever RBI decides to decrease repo rate. For example, if RBI decreasing repo rate, it indicates that the banks are supposed to pay less interest to the RBI. So whatever the gap will be there between previous repo rate and this repo rate, that much money will be there with the banks. So again, whenever there is a decrease in repo rate, at that point of time also huge money will be there with the banks. Then also the banks are will go for this teaser rate concept. So the teaser rate concept can be, now in this lockdown, huge pumping of money is there, so you can see this teaser rate concept. If there is decrease in RR also, there also you can see this teaser rate concept. Next, 74th question, what is repo rate? Repo rate is the rate of interest paid by the banks to the RBI. For example, this is bank and this is RBI. Bank keeps his assets with the RBI and takes amount. Now these are called collateral securities. So the assets of the bank are there with the RBI. Now the RBI gives money to the bank and collects interest, that is repo rate. So the rate of interest charged by the RBI from the banks is repo rate. Next, what are liquidity adjustment facilities? In common people's language, liquidity adjustment facility is nothing but taking a loan. So there are two possibilities for banks to take such thing. One is repo and the other one is marginal standing facility, MSF. MSF is being introduced by Reserve Bank of India in 2011 monetary policy. So whether it is a repo rate or marginal standing facility, it will be given on the basis of net demand time liabilities only. So NDTL or demand time liabilities. So generally the most used term is net demand time liabilities only. For example, when it is the case of marginal standing facility, so whatever the net demand time liabilities are there, out of total net demand time liabilities, 1% of the amount will be arranged by the Reserve Bank to the banks, to the commercial banks. So that is liquidity adjustment facility concept. You have repo concept and you have marginal standing facility concept. And 76th question, what is the difference between legal rights and fundamental rights? Simple. If there is an entitlement, that is legal right. If there is no entitlement, that is fundamental right. For example, entitlement means one individual has to be defined. For example, on the basis of below poverty line, we define people in India. So defining a people on the basis of below poverty line means that particular individual is entitled as a BPL. So he is going to have legal rights. For example, rights will be there for all people without any entitlement. So no such BPL definition or no such definition is required, then it is fundamental right. For example, National Food Security Act 2013 is a right to food indirectly because it is a legal right, not a fundamental right. NFSA 2013, that means right to food still in India is not a fundamental right. It is a legal right only based on National Food Security Act 2013. That means, in simple terms, if the individual is defined, then he can have legal rights. For all people, no definition is required, that is fundamental right. Simple. Next, what is the legal validity of MGNREGA, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act? Previously, it is Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. Now it is long back it is Act. If there is a term at the end of it, it itself indicates that it has got legal validity because it gives some amount of right to work into action. In terms of National Food Security Act, you have a right to food indirectly. Now, in terms of MGNREGA, right to work indirectly with certain limitations. Next, what does the 78th question says? What are the recent changes in Minimum Wages Act? Recently, actually, there is a controversy related to this one. The Union Cabinet has approved a wage code bill which raised the national minimum wage by 2 to 178 per day. So there is a controversy related to this one because maximum people are not happy with this act. I gave this question for your convenience only. There is no possibility of such kind of question in the exam because on the back of this concept there is a controversy. Now the 79th question, what is the significance of Trade Unions Act 1926? This is there in one of the preliminary examinations because Trade Unions Act 1926, that means we have this labor law before independence. That means this labor law is introduced in British India. So Trade Unions Act 1926 deals with majorly registration of trade unions only. One more act is there, Trade Disputes Act 1929, which is later changed into Industrial Disputes Act 1948. So related to this one, the trade unions can be established, their obligations can be heard. So everything related to trade unions will be there in Trade Unions Act 1926. I gave you in simple terms. If there is any question in mains, you can write all these lines. They are more than enough. And what are grey goods? Here some explanation is required. Grey goods means I am taking two economies here, economy A and economy B. A particular good is very cheap in economy A, and very costlier in economy B. If such kind of goods are sold by people who are not directly related with the producers, then such kinds of goods are called grey goods. So that means in one economy that particular good is a costlier one, in another economy it is a cheaper one. If from this economy to this economy the goods are sold, so then they are called grey goods. So 71 to 80 is done. In my next video I'll explain 81 to 90 questions. Thank you.